Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official launch of Executive Scorecard. I can't tell you how excited we all are to talk to you about what we've been working on at LevelEleven. And I'm sure if you're a senior leader, or sales operations leader, you're going to get a lot of value of the next 20 or 30 minutes. I'm David Lonerver, CEO of LevelEleven, and I'm here today to walk you through our new product. A few quick housekeeping items right off the bat. All the lines have been muted, but you are still able to ask questions. Please use the chat window as part of the GoToMeeting solution, and we'll answer any questions at the very end of the webinar. We'll also be providing a recording and slide deck afterwards. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to go over a brief overview of LevelEleven, how sales leaders are using us today, why we built Executive Scorecard based on feedback from our customers, a demo of the product, how to learn more, and answer any questions. So who is LevelEleven? LevelEleven is a modern sales management system built on top of Salesforce.com. We're all around motivating, engaging, and coaching the behaviors that lead to more sales. But what do I mean by motivate? When I say motivate, I'm talking about real-time leaderboards, contest automation, and getting things up on TV screens at its most basic. When we talk about engage, that's real-time scorecards for individual contributors and their managers with pacing algorithms and the ability to course correct in real time. Lastly, when we talk about coaching, that's one-on-one coaching, ad hoc coaching, the ability to onboard and potentially offboard people the right way with performance improvement plans. All of this is native within your CRM, so you're able to tie it back to real performance data. So LevelEleven is a software as a service solution that's embedded deeply within Salesforce.com. We're a native managed package and app exchange partner. If you're not familiar with that terminology, it really just means that we have a single user experience within Salesforce, and we are very tightly aligned in terms of technology. It's also very important in terms of data security and that your data doesn't actually leave Salesforce to interact with LevelEleven. For that reason, Salesforce has seen a lot of value, and LevelEleven has invested us twice. I did want to highlight this quote from Josh Allen, who's VP of Inside Sales at CarGurus, who's a great customer of ours. He had the quote that LevelEleven closes the gap between what sales leadership expects and what salespeople actually do. I think this is really important and something I'd like us to keep in mind as we go through our executive scorecard discussion, because this is something that helps bridge that gap and provide senior leadership with a visibility into what the individual contributors are actually doing. And then briefly, with the only reason for showing the logos here is to show that we have a number of large customers who are helping drive our roadmap, and we continue to add large customers to that our customer portfolio. So in terms of covering what we offer today, what you're seeing here is our manager scorecard view. This is what a frontline manager or director of sales would use day in and day out to manage their team. And here they're looking at things like conversations, new business meetings, pipeline, and new business wins. Obviously, all of that is configurable and is going to be different organization to organization, or you might have some different flavor of this. For example, we've been having a number of conversations with financial services firms, and they would care more about pitch books submitted and specific stages of pipeline than just general pipeline. We've certainly had plenty of conversations with sales development teams where their outcome is really opportunities created or appointments set as opposed to new business wins. We call these things profiles and different ways to track the metrics against common use cases. Another powerful thing about this, aside from the color coding and let you know if you're on or off pace, green ahead of pace, red behind pace, and blue on pace, is the ability to do a composite score, or what we call a LevelEleven performance index. For any of you familiar with marketing automation, this is a similar concept to lead scoring, but really based on performance of the individual contributor. The power of that is then you're able to have one number to stack rank people on and see, who do I need to coach? Who's that middle 60% that we need to help get them to be more like the top 20%? If you can get that group to perform just 5 or 10% better, it can make a meaningful impact on your organization. Next, in the TV broadcast service portion, we're able to increase visibility and motivate team performance. This is a great solution for anyone with an inside sales team, call center type of environment, or anyone who's really trying to drive engagement across different offices. If you close a deal in London and you have an office in New York and you want to know in real time and have everyone applaud and take a moment to appreciate the win, this is a great solution for that as well. And last but certainly not least, when we talk about coaching, this is helping bring structure and consistency to what can otherwise be a very subjective process. There's a lot of different pieces to this, but wanted to highlight the activity snapshots that we spoke about before. Our scorecard solution actually snapshots any metric that you're tracking daily. So you can look at year-to-date performance, the last few periods, this period, and how you're doing against your peers. And that brings, again, some objectivity to what can otherwise be a subjective conversation between the manager and the individual contributor. It also then ties it back to their feedback to make it a little more actionable. So how are other companies using LevelEleven? They're using it to reduce onboarding time. Janet Jansen, great customer from Paycor, was able to reduce her onboarding time by 50%. She did that through clearly defined weekly activity goals and pipeline goals. At Everbridge, Mike Sadler from the corporate sales team was able to increase the quality of conversations. And again, that was a coaching initiative that they were very focused on. And when you look at Jackson, they were able to increase their meetings with key target accounts by 41%. And really that was around giving visibility to the individual contributors around what's really important. What should they be focused on day in and day out? So at this point, I'd like to take a quick break and show you what we've been working on with our manager scorecard. So what you're seeing here is LevelEleven's manager scorecard solution. So in this case, Michael Scott, being the manager, would come in here and see his whole team's performance against leading indicators like calls and meetings, middle funnel activities like proposals submitted, and obviously the end goal being closed business. You see that they're color-coded, that we're ahead of pace on calls and meetings. We've already achieved our goals for proposals submitted and closed business, so we're doing pretty well here. But it also gives you the ability to dive into the individual contributors to see how the whole team's performing. So in this small team, Stephen Murray, Kevin Parker, Sharon Ross, all of them are doing fairly well, but you're able to look at how they're doing against a composite score or a LevelEleven performance index, and you're able to look at those key performance indicators that we were talking about before around, in this case, calls, meetings, proposals submitted, and closed business. So when a manager is looking at something like this, they can look at the middle tier or maybe even Sharon, since this is a pretty closely aligned team, and say, how can I get Sharon to maybe convert a few more of those calls and meetings into proposals and close business? But overall, this is a pretty good, strong team. So maybe this note might be more of a congratulations. Hey, keep up the good work. Let me know if I can help in terms of any of your early stage conversations. And again, another thing to keep in mind when we move into executive scorecard is the concept of profiles. Again, profiles have a number of users with metrics assigned to them. We're looking at the Mexico account executives right now, but later we'll be looking at the whole entire organization. So next, let's talk about why we built Executive Scorecard. There's no way around it. It's a challenging time to be a sales leader these days. The quote that everyone loves from CSO Insights that only 37% of rep time is actually spent selling is always a scary one. And while that could probably never be 100%, it certainly feels it should be at 50% or so. And that begs the question, what are people doing? Are they focused on the right things? Our scorecard product was really built to help answer that question, and Executive Scorecard is the next evolution of that. When you talk about research from Vantage Point, you also see that 83% of sales metrics are not actionable, meaning that it's nice information to know, but at the same time, what can you really do with it as either an individual contributor, a manager, or even a sales leader? So trying to find the right information to drive the outcomes that you're looking for. And then lastly, the sales readiness group points out that only 73% of managers receive little or no training on how to coach. So you have great individual contributors who are promoted into a manager role and now they're asked to coach and mentor the other people to perform like them. That can be daunting. And again, first question is, are they having those coaching conversations? And then the second question is, are they effective? And we see that senior leaders are still struggling to get real-time intelligence, even if they've already invested in CRM and other tools. From reports and dashboard standpoint, they're typically not a holistic view of an entire organization, or they're difficult to compare performance against different teams. And they certainly lack the ability to build out hierarchies that might be different from their given org chart. So when you've combined points 1 through 3, that usually leads you to the inevitable Excel and business intelligence route. The challenge with that is these things typically aren't real time and maybe not personalized enough. And they're, again, usually lagging enough where the information is a month later or maybe even a quarter later. So when you get the information, it's hard for you to course correct based on last quarter's information. And then you end up with a report that you see over on the right. So how does Executive Scorecard help with all this? Well, first off, you're able to see how frontline behaviors can actually impact corporate metrics. By that, I mean what a senior leader cares about is very different from what a frontline manager might care about. And how they're able to drive their team's performance might not be the same things that a senior leader is measuring people on. So it's good to take a look at how the whole company is looking at their different metrics and how they roll up to one another. Certainly comparing behaviors across teams to uncover best practices is a good one. If in the example we'll see later, one geography is doing much better than another. And why is that? Is that because they're having more coaching? Do they have a marketing campaign in place? Are their reps just better? Or is it a better territory? All these things to consider when you're looking at a different team performance, but quickly understanding where the differences are, it can be key. And then the management team sees all this in real time, and you're not waiting a month and using up a lot of sales operations time to generate a custom report. And finally, being able to create unique hierarchies regardless of your organization. So again, whether it's org chart based, product based, geography based, this is a way to compare and contrast different performances across teams and other areas. So with that, we really want to talk about what's a day in the life of a sales leader and how they might use Executive Scorecard. So Michael is an SVP of sales for a large software company. He gets Salesforce reports sent to his inbox weekly. He also reviews custom reports from sales ops monthly. But he really doesn't have time to dig into the details in Salesforce CRM. So as Michael moves into his Executive Scorecard experience, he'll start off by deciding what he wants to look at first. So you can certainly build out multiple executive scorecards based on what you're trying to evaluate. The one we're going to look at is going to be focused on new pipeline and closed business, really intended for sales leadership, and this is based off of an org chart model. You could certainly do it based off of geography like this one, or you could do it based off of product hierarchy. Taking a look at new pipeline and closed business. So Michael Scott's the SVP of sales, as we said before. He oversees North America and Central America within his company. And first thing that Michael sees when he comes in is that they are on pace for both new pipeline added and closed business. In this case, new pipeline added would be pipeline added this month that wasn't there last month, and closed business would be any closed business, not necessarily the new pipeline that came in. But we could certainly do that as well. And then so from Mike's standpoint, as long as he's closing 100K a month and adding 100K more to the pipeline, he should be in good shape. But when he starts looking down at how the performance of the different teams are doing, it becomes apparent that there's a little bit of a mismatch. North America is supposed to be the one driving most of the growth and having 70K a month in new business, but they're off in both their closed business number and they're well off on the pipeline they've added. Central America, by contrast, has added a lot more pipeline and has already achieved their goal for the month. So let's dig deeper and learn a little more. So within North America, there's a United States team and a Canadian team. And it's pretty apparent that the U.S. team is the one that's struggling, both in terms of pipeline and closed business. And then once you get to this level, this is more the manager and director level, what we were talking about with manager scorecard before. So these are the different things that the manager would be measuring in terms of calls, meetings, proposals submitted, and closed business. As mentioned before, those don't have to match the things that the senior leader is more interested in. In this case, new pipeline being created, which is a completely new metric that's not being tracked here, or closed business, which is being tracked here. And then when we look at the individual contributors, we see that really only one person's probably going to hit their number in terms of closed business. And then what are the other things going on? I mean, Craig is doing a good job on having calls, meetings, and sending enough proposals. We look at someone like Joe, who's maybe doing all right in terms of calls and meetings, but those aren't converting into proposals and wins. So this is a coaching opportunity for the manager to get involved here. There's also going to be the ability to actually take action directly from the screen so that the senior leader could either coach the manager with this information or coach Joe directly if that's your company's culture. So now that we've identified that the US is the problem, what's different about the US than Canada or Central America? Again, taking a look at Central America, they're well ahead on new pipeline, closed business. We dig down just a little more, we see that almost everyone has either hit their goal already or exceeded their goal in terms of closed business. And then we look at some of the other key items here. Most people are either ahead of pace or have already achieved their goal. So is there something that's different between Central America and the US? A couple things we've exposed through this is an aggregated LevelEleven performance index. So this is a way to say, are the people hitting their goals that we've given them? In the case of Central America, they certainly are. We give them a 30K goal for adding new pipeline, a 30K goal per month for closed business. Looks like we might need to raise those quotas in the next month or in the next couple months. But then beyond that, when we're looking at coaching, we're giving you a quick snapshot of how many people have received coaching recently in the past few weeks. And then out of that number, is that higher or lower than some of the other teams? So it gives you a sense of, are those conversations even happening? And then you can compare with, is that correlating to real performance? In the case of Central America and Canada, it looks like more coaching is leading to better performance, but there's certainly more that we can learn there. At this point, I'd like to talk a little bit about how you can learn more. So if you're already a LevelEleven customer, feel free to contact your account manager directly. If you're not sure of who to contact, you can always send a note to gethelp@leveleleven.com and we'll be sure to point you in the right direction. If you're new to LevelEleven, be sure to visit leveleleven.com/executive to get an overview of the product, or you can call 313-662-2062. So at this point, I'd like to turn over to questions and answers from the audience. So the first question that we have is, what type of historical metrics can be viewed for your sales team's performance? That's a great question and one that we get quite often. So going back to our scorecard product with LevelEleven, snapshots all information daily, so we're able to look at year-to-date performance, the last few periods or this period, similar to those activity snapshots we saw in the coaching. So with regards to executive scorecard or anything else we're doing, we can really look at any amount of historical data that you're interested in as long as we're tracking it in Salesforce. In terms of examples of that, a good example would be pipeline over time. Where was the pipeline 6 months ago versus where is it today? Just received another question. So what are some of the examples of hierarchies that a company might use? We talked about this a little bit before, but certainly organization chart would be a big one. Product based would be another one, and another one we're going to support is geography based. These don't necessarily have to be tied to people, and it's more around how are these different business units or product areas performing. The next question Is there a limit on the number of metrics that can be viewed in the scorecard? So that executive scorecard view that we saw before, and I'll switch back over to the demo real quick to highlight this. So in this view that you're seeing here, there can be up to 4 things that someone's tracking in terms of, we see closed business and new pipeline, because that's what Michael Scott cares about the most in terms of comparing it to how the whole team's performing. But you can have up to 4, and those can technically be different at each level. Some of the customers we've talked to have said that they want them to be the same at every level, but realistically, we understand that some customers are going to want to track things differently at the senior level than they do down at the individual rep and direct manager level. So in this case, there's some similarities in that closed business is common throughout, but proposal submitted, meetings, and calls are not things that Michael wants to dig into too deeply. So just received another question. How customizable and configurable is the solution? It's definitely very customizable and configurable. You can have as many levels to this as you would like, and you certainly are able to swap in and out different metrics as needed. And following up on the question from before of how many metrics can you see at one time, you see 4 at any given time, but you are able to build out as many hierarchies as you would like. So this one, again, you might be focused on new pipeline and closed business. You may have a different executive scorecard hierarchy for renewals and retention for a different team. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And we're also looking into constant improvements to the solution so that it makes it easier and easier to switch between one executive scorecard and another. Got a couple more questions here. So a question about the executive scorecard and specifically the new pipeline and closed business. How are you able to pull this new pipeline metric? So that's a great question. Part of our base scorecard product provides the abilities to do filtering and cross-object filtering within Salesforce. So for this new pipeline that we'd be pulling in monthly, what that would typically look like is new opportunities created within the past month and tying it to the dollar amount associated with it. If we wanted to make that a little bit more granular, maybe best case pipeline added, again, those are additional filters we can apply. And as things are entered into the Salesforce CRM, they're automatically updated here and anywhere else that you're using LevelEleven. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have for today. Again, I would encourage all of you to contact your account manager if you're a customer, or reach out via leveleleven.com/executive if you're not a customer. This solution has a lot of potential to make lives easier for not only the senior leaders and sales leaders of the world, but also the sales operations folks who are building out a lot of custom reports and things that haven't been able to fully fill the need that a lot of senior leaders are asking for. With that, I'll enjoy the rest of your day.